So check this out. We're all up in our heads 2047, right? It's a total circus in there, plans, worries, reruns of old drama, the whole 9 yards. We're trying to boss our lives around like we're the CEO of everything. And let's be honest, it's exhausting. It's a total grind. But what if I told you the wildest, most liberating power move you could ever pull is to just stop? I'm talking full surrender. Not giving up on your life, but giving up to something way bigger. What happens when you finally throw in the towel on running your own mental show? When you drop every single thought, the good, the bad, the funky, the fun, and you let God, the universe, divine mind, whatever you call that infinite intelligence, what happens when you let that be your mind? We're not talking about zoning out. We're talking about tuning into a frequency that's got all the answers, all the peace, and a flow you can't even imagine. Joel called this the art of spiritual living, and it's the ultimate hack. It's about getting your little you out of the driver's seat so the real navigator can take the wheel. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to see your own thoughts in a whole new light. You might even catch a glimpse of what's waiting for you when the thinking mind goes quiet and something infinitely more dope takes its place. So, if this hits different, do me a solid, smash that like button, drop a 444 in the comments if you're ready for that total surrender, and subscribe to keep diving deeper with us. The real trip is just getting started. You know that mental circus I mentioned? Let's really unpack that, because we've all been there. From the moment the alarm blasts, the show is already in full swing. It's not a gentle morning thought stream. It's a 3-ring circus under a big top of anxiety, and we're the ringmaster, the acrobat, and the guy cleaning up after the elephants all at once. Your first thought isn't even a thought, it's a reaction. Ooh, already. Then the mental to-do list starts scrolling like it's on a ticker tape. Gotta get the kids ready. Gotta answer that email from yesterday you've been dodging. Did you pay that bill? And that's just in the first 5 minutes. You're trying to sip your coffee, but your mind is already in a 3 p.m. meeting, rehearsing a conversation that hasn't happened. It's pure reruns and pre-runs. You're mentally reliving that awkward thing you said last Tuesday, while simultaneously trying to script a flawless performance for a future conversation. It's madness. And the soundtrack, it's a broken record of what-ifs and if-onlys. What if I mess up the presentation? If only I had said this instead. It's a constant commentary, a judge and jury living rent, free in your skull, critiquing every move, every past decision, every future possibility. It's like having a podcast of your own insecurities playing on loop, and you can't find the off switch. We think this is normal. We think this is just how life is, a constant, grinding negotiation between what you want and what you've got, between past failures and future fears. We call it being responsible, being a planner, being aware, but let's call it what it really is. It's exhausting. It's a total grind. This is the exhausting grind of running your own mental show. You're carrying the weight of an entire imagined universe on your shoulders. You're trying to calculate every outcome, control every variable, and manage every emotion, yours and everyone else's too. You're playing chess with the universe, thinking 10 moves ahead, but the board is imaginary and the pieces keep changing. The energy it takes is astronomical. It leaves you spiritually bankrupt, tapped out, running on fumes of caffeine and sheer willpower by Wednesday afternoon. This constant mental chatter isn't just noise, it's a barrier. It's static. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a hurricane. We're so busy listening to the booming voice of our own worries, our own plans, our own endless analysis, that we can't hear anything else. We mistake this cacophony for thinking, for being alive, for being in control. But this isn't control. This is what Joel would call the activity of the personal mind, and it's a treadmill. You're running and running, sweating buckets, but you're not getting anywhere new. You're just staying in the same small, familiar loop of your own limitations. The circus isn't entertaining anyone. It's just loud, chaotic, and incredibly draining. And deep down, a part of you knows there has to be a better way, a quieter space, a peace that doesn't come from solving every single problem yourself. This is where the whole game changes. Most of us hear the word surrender, and we think it means waving the white flag. We think it's for the weak, the ones who couldn't hack it. It sounds like defeat, like you're just gonna lie down on the floor of that mental circus and let the elephants trample you. But that's the ego's biggest trick, its final scare tactic. Because real spiritual surrender isn't about giving up on your life. It's about giving up to something infinitely smarter than your personal drama. Think of it this way: you've been trying to navigate the entire ocean in a rowboat with a broken compass and a map you drew yourself based on rumors. You're exhausted, bailing water, muscles screaming, going in circles. Surrender isn't about sinking the boat. It's about finally looking up and seeing the massive, powerful, intelligent cruise ship right beside you, a ship built for these waters with a seasoned captain who knows the stars. It's about stopping your frantic rowing, reaching for the ladder they throw down, and letting yourself be pulled aboard. You're not quitting the journey. You're upgrading your entire vessel. You're trading struggle for flow, confusion for navigation, your limited horsepower for an engine you can't even comprehend. This is the shift from the personal sense to the muscle, your personal mind. That circus ringmaster only knows the past. It only knows your stored memories, your wounds, your conditioned reactions. It's trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's broken tools. Letting God be your mind is like getting access to a universal database of solutions, a wisdom that operates outside of time and fear. You're not checking out, you're plugging into a mainframe. You're trading your limited, biased, anxiety-riddled operating system for one that is pure, conscious, creative intelligence. It's the ultimate upgrade from dial up to quantum speed. So when you surrender a thought, say that gnawing worry about a problem at work, you're not just ignoring it. You're consciously taking that specific, freaked-out thought and handing it over. You're saying, okay, my take on this is fear. My take is that I'm not enough, but I am willingly handing this entire situation, my limited view of it, over to a mind that sees the whole chessboard, that knows the perfect move I can't see from my square. You release your white knuckle grip on the outcome. You stop trying to figure it out from the basement of your own fears. You let it go into a higher wisdom. And in that empty space, where you've stopped the frantic rowing, something else can happen. An intuition might whisper. A sudden sense of peace might descend, even though nothing in the circumstances has changed. A new idea, a clear next step, might simply appear, as if it was always there waiting for the static to clear. This is the art. It's not a one-time declaration, it's a moment-by-moment practice. You catch yourself wrestling with a thought, and you consciously drop it. You let it fall away, not into a void, but into the hands of a higher intelligence. You aren't left with nothing. You're making room for everything. You're trading your small, noisy, opinionated mind for the vast, quiet, knowing mind of the universe. That's not weakness. That's the most sophisticated and powerful move a human being can make. You're stepping out of the cramped control room of your own making and onto the bridge of a starship. The view is entirely different from up here. Stepping onto that bridge means there's a fundamental shift in command. For your entire life, you've been operating under the assumption that you're the CEO, the head honcho, the final decider of your destiny. Your ego, that collection of thoughts, memories, and stories about who you are, has held the corner office. It's made all the executive decisions based on a very limited portfolio, past performance, fear of loss, and a desperate desire for gain. It's run the company of you with an iron fist, and let's be honest, the results have been mixed at best. Constant stress, burnout, cyclical problems, that feeling of never quite being enough or having enough. The CEO is a terrible boss, Dethroning this ego CEO isn't about firing yourself or becoming a blank slate. It's about a corporate restructuring of consciousness. It's about realizing on a bone-deep level that the you've been listening to is just a manager, and not a very good one. It's been using outdated data, driven by survival instincts that belong in a jungle, not in navigating modern life with peace and purpose. This CEO's entire existence depends on problem, solving, on conflict, on proving its worth. It needs drama to feel alive. It defines itself by what it controls, what it owns, what it fears losing. So of course it's terrified of surrender. Surrender is a hostile takeover in its eyes. But here's the truth you come to see. The ego CEO was never actually in control. It was just a very loud, very anxious administrator pretending to be in charge, frantically pushing buttons on a control panel that was mostly for show. Real control, true authority, the actual creative power, resides elsewhere. It belongs to the infinite, to the divine source. Your job isn't to run the universe. Your job is to get the anxious, micromanaging ego out of the chair so the real president God consciousness, the one mind, can operate through you. You're not destroying the ego. You're reassigning it. It goes from being the tyrannical boss to being a humble receptionist whose new job is simply to take the messages, the sensory input, and pass them along to the real authority without adding its own frantic commentary. This is the practical work. You feel the old CEO puffing up, ready to have a strong opinion about a slight, ready to spin a story of lack, ready to panic over a deadline. And instead of letting it hold a board meeting, you gently but firmly escort it out of the office. You recognize its voice, that sharp, critical, scared or greedy tone, and you see it for what it is, not the truth, but a programmed reaction. You don't fight it. You don't argue with it. You simply cease to give it your vote. You withdraw your belief in its authority. You watch the thought, emotion storm rage, and you know with a quiet certainty, that is not me. That is not my mind. That is just old noise. And in that space of non-engagement, the door opens. The real power which was always there has room to flow. Decisions begin to feel inspired, not agonized over. Actions feel guided, not forced. You find yourself saying the right thing without rehearsing, in the right place at the right time without frantic effort. The company of you stops being a stressed out startup on the verge of collapse and starts operating like a blessed, divinely run enterprise with endless resources. The workload might still be there, but the weight of it is gone because you're no longer carrying it alone on your shoulders. You're just the conduit, and the source is doing the heavy lifting. So, what does it look like when that divine mind takes the wheel? It's not like you hear a thundering voice from the clouds giving you turn-by-turn navigation. It's subtler and far more intelligent than that. It's the end of the internal civil war. You're no longer white, knuckling the steering wheel, wrestling for control while the car, your life, veers all over the road. It's the profound relief of taking your hands off, leaning back into the seat, and allowing the vehicle to be guided by a perfect, built-in GPS that knows the destination better than you ever could. This is where living shifts from being a series of problems to solve, to being an experience to witness and participate in. You start your day not with a frantic mental to-do list, but with a quiet inner surrender. You might say, okay, I'm here. Use me, show me, let my thoughts be your thoughts, let my actions be your actions. And then you go about your business. But the quality of everything changes. That difficult conversation you have to have, instead of your ego, CEO rehearsing scripts fueled by defensiveness or a need to win, you walk in with a curious openness. You listen more than you plan to speak, and the words that come out are often surprising to you most of all. They're wiser, kinder, more cutting to the truth of the matter without being cutting to the person. That's not you being clever. That's the divine mind navigating the social landscape through you. Or you're faced with a problem that used to tie your stomach in knots. The old CEO would have immediately gone into panic mode, scrambling, forecasting doom, working 24/7 from a place of lack and fear. Now, you might consciously take that problem and, in your mind, place it on an imaginary altar. You hand it over. You say, "This is yours. I release my limited way of seeing it." And then you go make a cup of tea. You take a walk. You do the next obvious thing in front of you. And in that space of release, an idea floats in. It might come as a quiet knowing, a sudden recollection of a resource, or an unexpected person calling out of the blue with exactly the piece you needed. The solution arrives, but it feels received, not manufactured. It feels like grace. This is the flow state, but it's not reserved for artists or athletes. It becomes the undercurrent of an ordinary life. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, not because you meticulously planned it, but because you were inwardly nudged to take a different route, to make that call, to pause for a moment. Synchronicities stop being weird coincidences and start being the normal language of a life being guided. You're not pushing the river anymore, you're flowing with it, and the river itself is intelligent. It knows how to navigate the rocks. Your job is simply to stay buoyant, to trust the current. The anxiety of figuring everything out evaporates because you're no longer the one solely responsible for the figuring. Your primary task is to stay surrendered, to stay out of the driver's seat. The pressure is off. The work gets done, but it's done through you, often with an ease that feels uncanny. Relationships soften because you're no longer trying to manage and control everyone else's behavior to suit your ego's needs. You begin to see the divine in others, even when their own ego CEO is having a tantrum. You respond instead of react. Life becomes less of a battle and more of a collaborative dance, and you realize you're dancing with a partner who knows all the steps. Now, how do you actually access this? It's not about begging or pleading from the outside. Joel called this the art of meditation, but let's cut through the fancy terms. This is the ultimate hack, tuning your receiver to the God frequency. Think of your ordinary, noisy mind as a radio dial stuck between static, filled stations, a little fear here, a blast of past regrets there, some white noise of future worry. You're hearing bits and pieces of chaos, but no clear signal. The divine mind, that infinite intelligence, isn't silent. It's broadcasting 24/7 on a clean, pure frequency of peace, wisdom, and unconditional love. The signal is always there, full strength. The issue was never the broadcast, it's always been our reception. We've been tuned to the wrong channel our whole lives. Tuning in isn't about adding more noise. It's about subtraction. It's the conscious, deliberate act of turning the dial away from the static. In practice, this looks like silence. It looks like closing your eyes, getting still, and doing the one thing your ego, CEO, hates most: doing nothing. You sit and you let the thoughts pass like clouds. You don't follow them, you don't argue with them, you don't judge them. You just notice them and let them drift on by. You're not trying to think spiritual thoughts. You're trying to reach a place before thought, the space between the notes where the music lives. At first, it feels like you're just sitting there with the circus still going wild. But you're not engaging. You're just observing the chaos from a quiet corner of the big top. And slowly, because you've stopped feeding it with your attention, the chaos begins to lose its steam. The volume drops. That's when you begin to detect the new signal. It's not a voice per se, it's a knowing, it's a deep, resonant feeling of peace that seems to have no external cause. It's a warmth that starts in the center of your being and radiates outward. This is the God frequency. This is the vibration of the divine mind. In this space, insights don't feel like your frantic brain working overtime, they feel like gentle downloads. A clear, simple direction. A profound sense of all is well. Even when the outer picture still looks messy, you realize this frequency isn't something you visit only in meditation, it's a wavelength you can learn to walk in. So you start taking this tune up into your day. You're in a tense moment, and you feel the old static of anger or fear rise. Instead of amplifying it by talking or acting from it, you pause. In that pause, you consciously turn the inner dial. You take a deep breath and move your inner attention away from the chaos of the reaction and toward that silent, peaceful signal. You might remember the feeling from your meditation. You might just whisper, "Thy will, not mine," and something shifts. The static fades into the background, but a clearer signal comes through. Maybe it's the signal of compassion for the other person. Maybe it's the signal of patience. Maybe it's just a quiet directive to be still and say nothing. This is tuning in real time. It's retraining your entire system to live from that received signal, not from the noisy, generated static of the personal mind. The more you do it, the stronger that clear channel becomes, and the easier it is to find, until it starts to become your default setting. The hack is realizing you already have the radio. You just need to stop listening to the junk stations and tune to the one that's been playing perfect music all along. This is the transformation, the tangible shift from theory to lived reality. When you make that clear signal your home base, something revolutionary happens to your everyday experience. The frantic, effortful doing of life gradually gives way to a receptive, graceful flow. It's the difference between trying to scream your own song over a deafening noise and finally hearing the sublime symphony that was always playing beneath it and realizing you're meant to be an instrument in it. Your life stops feeling like a constant uphill battle where you're the sole source of propulsion and becomes more like catching the perfect wave. Your effort isn't in creating the wave, it's in skillfully, joyfully riding the one that's already powerfully moving. This infinite flow isn't about everything becoming magically easy or every wish instantly granted. It's about the quality of the energy within you. The external circumstances might still present challenges. There might still be bills, difficult people, and unexpected setbacks. But your internal relationship to them is utterly changed. You're no longer meeting these events from the small, isolated bunker of your personal mind, armed only with its limited resources and its fear. You're meeting them from within the flow of the infinite itself, which means you have access to a creativity, a resilience, and a perspective that is literally boundless. A problem arises, and instead of it hitting a solid wall of you and creating a crisis, it passes into the spaciousness of this flow. It gets metabolized not by your panic, but by a higher intelligence. Solutions emerge from a place of calm certainty, not anxious striving. Right action feels obvious, almost inevitable. You begin to notice a kind of effortless synchronicity guiding your days. You think of someone you need to speak to, and they call. You have a quiet need, and the exact resource appears in your path, often through a seemingly random conversation or a stumbled-upon article. These aren't miracles in the grand, theatrical sense. They are the normal, natural functioning of a life that is in alignment. It's the universe operating efficiently through a willing vessel. Your old mental noise acted as interference, blocking these natural connections. Now, with the static turned down, the circuitry is clear. Life starts to feel supported, even in its difficulties. There's a sense of being carried, of a larger story unfolding that you are a part of, but are not solely responsible for writing or forcing into being. In this flow, your work changes. It becomes an act of co-creation, not a grind for validation or survival. You bring your hands, your skills, your attention, and you offer them to the flow. The inspiration, the momentum, the unifying ideas come from the divine mind. You might find yourself writing, building, or speaking with a fluency that surprises you, as if you're taking dictation from a deeper source. The crushing weight of personal ambition dissolves. You're not trying to build a monument to your own ego anymore. You're simply allowing something beautiful and useful to come through you. This is perhaps the greatest peace, the end of the desperate need to control outcomes. You do your part with love and integrity, and you release the results to the flow. Success is redefined not as a specific, predetermined trophy, but as the quiet joy of being a clear, unobstructed channel. Whether the outer world labels it a triumph or a setback becomes almost irrelevant, because you are anchored in a current of peace that circumstances cannot touch. You have moved from the exhausting, splashy paddling in the shallows to the powerful, silent and deep current that was always headed for the ocean.